Hey, everybody. Welcome in. I'm going to give it a couple minutes or so for folks to join. But while we wait, drop in the chat where you're calling in from. So I'm usually in New York City, as some of you might know if you've ever attended one of my webinars. But I'm actually home visiting family for the holidays in Rhode Island, which, if you don't know, is the smallest state in the USA. And fun fact, you can fit 221 Rhode Islands in the US's largest mainland state, Texas. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We'll get started in just a second. So just drop in the chat where you're coming from. Seeing a lot of answers already. Texas, that's funny. Seeing Canada, Germany, Colombia, International Space Station. Wow, we got a celebrity, I think. All right, we got a lot of people here already, so I think we can go ahead and get started. All right, welcome in everybody. I'm Brian. I'm a developer relations engineer here at Kilo, and I'm really excited for this one because we're going to do something that we haven't done yet in a webinar. If you've attended any of the last few ones that I've hosted, you'll know that we recently sat down with Anthropic, with Mistral, even with our CEO Scott Breitenother. We've been doing a lot of these like interview style discussions, and I think they've been really great. And this time, we'll be joined shortly by one of our very own engineers, Marius, who is the mastermind builder behind parallel agents in the Kilo IDE extension, which is the subject of our discussion today. So I'm going to go ahead and share some quick slides. And I'm going to talk through a little agenda here. So as a quick agenda, we're going to bring on Marius in a minute, who will talk with us, developer to developers, and walk us through one, why do we need parallel agents in this day and age? How do they actually help us achieve our goals? And what types of tasks require them? And then we'll go through a little bit of the architecture of Kilo's parallel agents, and then we'll do some quick demos. So as a quick recap, before we get into all of that, I want to take a quick look at the last 2 months in Kilo and what that's looked like. So in late October, October 22nd, we launched the Kilo CLI, enabling developers to access Kilo from the terminal, which unlocked a bunch of new use cases, right? Some people just prefer to work there, but you could also incorporate Kilo into autonomous workflows with the auto flag, local development with dev tools, etc. And then about a week and a half after that, we released parallel agents in the CLI, which enabled potentially exponential accelerations to your development workflow, which we'll dig into deeper with Marius in a moment. And then throughout November and early December, we launched code reviews, which enables automatic AI-powered feedback on new PRs. So you can go ahead and enable that in the Kilo dashboard if you hadn't already. There's cloud agents, which allow you to access Kilo without a local machine directly in your browser. And then there's parallel agents in the IDE, which is the subject of our discussion today. And then yesterday, we released a really exciting new feature, App Builder, which you can think of as lovable for serious projects. So App Builder allows you to build and deploy sites and web apps directly from the browser by conversating with AI using natural language, meaning that you can spin up quick prototypes, ideas, and MVPs very quickly, and you never have to leave the Kilo platform to iterate or spin into full-on engineering in the IDE or CLI. So I'm actually going to show a quick demo of App Builder at the end of this call before our Q&A, and I might just even give away some credits to those who try it out with me live. But anyway, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest of honor, Marius. So do you want to hop on the stage and tell us a little bit about what you're building at Kilo? Hey, Marius.
Hi. So sound works hopefully. Yes. Yeah, sure. So my name is Marius. I have been working at Kilo very recently, since a couple of weeks, and just joined, and excited to start. And it has been quite a journey, so to say. So yes. So today we want to talk about parallel agents, specifically like what workflows are there, what is possible, right?
Yep.
And I have actually looked into this whole domain or the whole topic since the last year or so, or longer than the last year, and worked in different types of software and like how do we make this possible. And I have some thoughts about this in general. I would like to talk with you about today.
Yeah, it sounds great. And yeah, as you mentioned, you joined a couple weeks ago. We have like this expression at Kilo called Kilo Speed, which is what we want to enable developers with to be able to move with, a frictionless pace. But it's also representative of how we move internally. So Marius has already shipped parallel agents in the IDE since joining very recently. So I'm really excited to hear from the builder himself on this subject. So the first question I want to ask is, why do parallel agents matter on December 23rd, 2025?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. We heard a lot of things right now happening, not only on the model scope, but also on the product scope. So
Right.
you might have heard about cloud agents and different features that are launched by different companies, including by us. And there's also a large variety of local tools usually you want to work with. And the trend is actually very interesting. If you look at this meter statistic you just shared there, so for everybody who hasn't seen this before, this is a statistic that shows or measures like how models over time are capable of solving with a 50% probability the task that would be shown on the y-axis here that usually takes a human to do this. So you can see if you have a look at the scale, train a robust image model takes probably a human around 4 hours. So not many models were capable of actually achieving this with a 50% probability if you just launch them on the first shot. And yes, so there's a quite big trend right now. Some people speak even of super exponential trends. We'll see if that works or if it might be logarithmic. Or how that goes, but it's certainly there's a big movement currently in the model space, and that comes with more autonomy, obviously. So the question is like, what will that ultimately mean for us developers?
Yeah, that's a great point. And like kind of spinning into the next question, I zoomed in a little bit on the graphic here so people can hopefully see it better. Um, what will this look like in 2026, right? If this is accelerating
Yeah.
already seemingly exponentially, what does that mean as we proceed into the next year?
So they say even super exponentially. So
Right.
50 with a 15% increase, they currently assume on top of exponential scale, which is crazy to think about. Who knows if that makes economically sense? If you like, how do you measure it? Is probably the question here at this point in time. But yes, the question is like, how will software engineering evolve in 2026? And that's interesting when you look at, okay, what will this mean for the model? So most of the tasks which you usually launch, for instance, in Kilo with the latest models with Codex, or if you launch them with Opus, you'll notice they're capable of solving much more longer tasks. And they will also run longer usually. So you start them off with a task, and then the model will keep working, and then you end up sitting there and you notice, okay, you can actually get a coffee now or do something else. And the question is like, how will that evolve? So imagine you have a model working for a 2-hour time frame, and then you have 3 tasks you want to work around. You stack them sequentially, then you can wait around 6 hours and drink coffee for 6 hours until you come back and actually. I mean, it's nice for some people or some folks, I guess. They go to meetings or do something else. But the question is like, how do we do this more effectively?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Oh,
does it make
go ahead.
sense so far?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So kind of spinning into that, you mentioned that different developers have different styles, but um, how do parallel agents like align with the goal of AI coding in general, and what is that goal if we really get down to it?
Yeah, so what we, in terms of software engineering, usually want to do is solve a problem. So what you can think of in that way is then you think of a decision tree of your model itself. Your agent could be making a decision at every iteration, it uses a tool, or it speaks to you, or it answers to you, right? Or it thinks something through. And if it takes the wrong decisions, it might be able to backtrack, but if it takes the wrong decision, you end up in the wrong, non-acceptable solution space. Essentially a solution you might not even want, or that has a bug or doesn't work properly. So what you can do is, during that process, help and supervise the model if it's on the wrong path. So there are multiple various ways to do this. So you can do context engineering, give it a really good prompt from the beginning, or you would go ahead and, for instance, stop the model, tell the model, hey, you're looking actually at the wrong repository. And that obviously increases the probability of having a solution in the acceptable solution space.
Right.
So the problem right now is you can now launch all of those agents, maybe in the cloud, maybe somewhere else, and you start them sequentially, but the feedback loop won't be very quick if you launch them and never look at them back at it again. So this would be, you start some agents asynchronously, they run somewhere in the cloud, they come back, create maybe a PR, you have a PR and you look at it. So this is one way to think about it. Another way is maybe you want to do this locally. You want to test out, does your solution work? You want to check, is the diff, the Git diff, is that the correct diff I would like to have? Does it conform with my quality standards? And like having these metrics will ultimately help you to guide your model into the correct direction to solve the problems you want to solve.
Awesome. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. I think the next thing that might be interesting is, how does, the task complexity figure into all of this? For example, in general, and then when would you reach for parallel agents for an easy task, or for, what complexities of task would you require parallel agents, or would it make sense to use them?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's a good question, so to say, because it is also not an easy question to answer for many people. So you still need to keep in mind that currently technology moves much faster as we human beings or our teams are able to change currently. I've been looking into many customer projects where at previous companies where the change of human is much more slower currently than technology moves. Getting a good feeling, like how complex is the task, and like how do I delegate it, and in what way should I use it, and what way should I use Kilo code for actually solving the task, is something you need to learn or need to get used to, or teams need to get onboarded. And it might take maybe multiple weeks even to get up to speed and get productive. But when you look at the productive engineers that use those parallel agentic development tools, they usually get a feel after a while. Okay, what is a task that a model is currently capable of solving? And then when you speak to the models more often, at some point you get that gut feeling of, okay, this might be a task, for instance, where I just need to adjust the documentation of my code. And the documentation change might be easy. It might not be complex, or you might want to change a Boolean, or you might want to extract a function. So there are many things that are simple and trivial, and it ultimately depends on like what model are you using, and like with what tooling or with agent harness are you using it. But that feeling, when you get it after a while, you kind of understand, okay, there's a specific set of tasks I can just launch off. They create a PR, and it is highly likely that that solution is in the acceptable solution space.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. But so what about handling more difficult tasks?
And so I think the key thing is not to give the agents too little tasks. And because it takes a lot of if you want to go into parallel agent space, you need to think a little bit bigger and not smaller in terms of what do you delegate to them. So first, thinking about whole features and handing them off to agent, I think is the correct approach. And then going and continuing and supervising them until they're in their acceptable solution space, where you have the correct diff that you want to actually commit or contribute to your repository, and where you can actually run your own tests. Maybe you want to see, are your unit tests green, or you do manual testing, which the agents are not fully capable of currently yet, right? So
Right.
you want to understand the requirements, because at that point, you're the engineer that understands the requirements, and you therefore want to validate it. And once you're there, your agent runs maybe for a couple of minutes. You might think, okay, I start a second agent. And there are multiple approaches to do this. I think there are a couple of engineers that like to have multiple checkouts of repository, and then they have multiple IDEs. And there's a couple of engineers, they have a bunch of tmugs open, and then start a couple of CLI sessions on their own Git worktree.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a couple of engineers that even work sequentially on a code base. But that is very arguably problematic, I would say so, because think of, you start multiple agents on the same code base, then one agent might add a feature and it starts testing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other agent has a problem with that. And there's a reason why Git got invented, right? So the Git got invented because it allows parallel development with multiple developers on the same code base. And I think it's good to think about in the same direction. So
Go ahead.
You asked for an example. So here I would think this is after a while if you got used to this way of thinking and starting multiple agents, there is literally no feature you cannot develop with this anymore. So if you're thinking of a very complex features, you would usually delegate into a team. You'd usually delegate to multiple of your colleagues at the same time. Let's say you first define the API contract first, or you think about your domain model, and then from the domain model, you go in different directions. And this is usually where you want to work sequentially. And then also, as in the same way as you work with a team, you then want to launch off different agents, so to say, on different tasks that are missing.
Yeah.
So this is a good metaphor to think about it. I would think of it like as a team. You're managing a team of engineers, and you want to delegate the work in such a way, you're the team lead, so to say, that drives the agents to do the correct thing, what you want to have, like your requirements, your architecture goals, your non-functional requirements, whatever you want to have. And then you supervise them to ensure that you achieve the goal of what you want to have.
Yeah, and I think if anyone here has attended some of our other webinars, especially with my colleague Brendan, has a really famous analogy, which is like, we should be treating AI agents right now as like junior developers. They're eager to help. They don't get tired. And with the right direction and oversight, they can be extremely helpful. But also without that oversight, they can be very confidently wrong. And I think that applies here. And you already kind of hinted at it. I think I heard Git and work trees here and there. But could you dive a little bit deeper into the architecture of parallel agents in Kilo? And you mentioned this is why Git was created, right? So that originally people could collaborate on the same code base without conflict. So how does that kind of apply here?
Yeah. So you asked about the architecture itself, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, like, why do we in the extension itself, or the?
Yeah, and just maybe explain like how Git work trees, works into this and all that stuff.
Okay, I see what you're about. So, originally, Kilo is an application that runs as an extension, and it runs in the IDE, right? So, when you then go ahead and use it on your repository, then you work sequentially at this point in time. You have your sidebar, you run with one single agent, and the question right now is like, okay, what is the correct product that would allow you to start multiple of those sessions? And there are multiple approaches how to do this. So you could think of it like, okay, maybe I want to edit a little bit of the code myself. But you can also maybe think about it like, okay, maybe I don't want to edit some parts of the code myself. And that is what you need to figure out. So maybe the most complex pieces of software engineering you still want to do yourself, and you want to edit yourself to understand it maybe that various ways. And there's some ways where you're absolutely certain, okay, the agent is capable of doing this, where you want to delegate this. And so what we now changed in Kilo code itself is that we just reuse our CLI as the harness to launch multiple agents in parallel. And the nice thing about the CLI is it actually runs in its own process. So you can run it anywhere. You can run it in a CLI, you can run it on a Raspberry Pi if you want to. And we use the same approach in launching them. So we will be, or we have already started launching now the parallel agent feature. And we call it Agent Manager. And it is one new feature that will allow. So what it will allow is it starts multiple processes of CLIs, and all of those CLIs, they run concurrently. And not only that, they also run on different work trees. And for everybody who hasn't heard of work trees, so Git work trees is a concept that isn't actually really new. So Git created that concept quite a while ago to allow parallel development locally. And what a Git work tree does is it just creates a simple copy of your file system and allows you to work independently in your own file system. And that allows to have multiple, so to say, checkouts of your repository, which you can quickly spawn and quickly cancel if you want to. So we can leverage this for parallel development. The downside of this is it has been launched in like many other products already early on. Like setting up your work trees is really a pain, because you need to create the work tree, you need to understand where's the directory, you need to understand where your changes, like how do you get your changes back on a PR or merge them. And at that overhead, we plan to now make very simple with the agent manager that is part of the Kilo core space now.
Yeah. And I think that's the perfect time to maybe jump into a demo. So would you be willing to kind of show us around the agent manager and the IDE?
Sure. I think we haven't talked about one last use case.
Okay.
And that is the starting multiple versions. I'm not sure if you have a slide about this yet, or is that coming? Or maybe we have...
here. Maybe it was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one I want to quickly talk about maybe
Sure
for
thing, yeah.
30 seconds. So
that
is one more workflow we haven't talked about. And that is what you see what you can use when you don't really understand like what feature you're building. So I give you an example. You might want to build a new UI feature in your application that you're building, but you don't really know like how will it be looking like. And the nice thing is each agent interaction that you have is non-deterministic. So you can launch it multiple times, and every time your button or your UI element or your header will always look a little bit different. And that is what we can use in order to start multiple versions. So Agent Manager and also later Cloud and different features, they will allow you to start multiple versions of the same specification, which is here called spec. But it's nothing else that you ticket your story, your requirement, your prompt, and you launch that same prompt on multiple agent, and you get a Git diff for each of them. And then you decide, ultimately, what is the coolest button I would like to have? Or what agent had the best programming taste or wrote the most unit tests, depending on what your quality goals are for your application. And the rest you can just throw away. And it's actually a very nice way of prototyping like multiple variations of your UI and then just launching them. And you test out like, how does it look here? How does it look here? How does it look here? You throw the rest away and you merge whatever you want to have.
Yeah. And we actually got a relevant question from the chat here. Maybe you can help us answer. So someone said the spec part is usually painful. There should be a human in the loop with AI generated specs. Any thoughts or support for that?
Yeah, sure. And I think I fully agree. The spec part actually lives most to your requirements of the application. So, and you'll notice that the agents are not really good in requirements because they don't know what you want to build. But you
Right.
are really good in requirements because you understand what product you want to build. You understand maybe your customer. You understand the long-term goals of your architecture or your application or your product. And therefore, agents they're not really good in writing your specs. They might be good at formulating them, but like they're not really good in making the correct product decisions usually for you in order to go somewhere, at least currently in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is why it feels also so painful to write a spec. And I think you can still use AI for it. You can ask AI, hey, have a look at this code base, check how feature XYZ is implemented in backend of this microservice XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if we can generalize it, or let's see if we can solve the problem in a simple way, for instance. And then the outcome might be a markdown, and you might ask a couple of questions and have a discussion with the agent. And then at the end, you have a spec, a specification that clearly defines like what is the change you want to introduce in your code base. And so if you go to different teams and you want to make them productive, you usually teach them first, like at what point in time, what do you want to introduce a spec
Right.
or plan, so to say. So, and then there's also, it's arguable, questionable if a plan is the same thing as a spec. Because a spec, I would say, is more kind of a specification that expresses the requirements of your product itself. Whereas the plan is something that you can do with your agent. You can just say, make a plan, write me a plan to a markdown file. You can then review that plan, or you use plan mode, or whatever the process is here. But this is a very good tool to align your thoughts on what you want to build, what are the requirements with the agent, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know we're coming up on time in the next 10-15 minutes. So I think it'd be a great time to hop into a demo. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna give you the chance to share your screen. Yeah, we could take a look at what Agent Manager looks like in the IDE.
Sure. So can you see my ID?
Yep.
So as you can see, I have this demo repository, which I use for launching many Christmas trees. So this is my way of testing a lot. So I start telling my agents, build me some Christmas tree, whatever, and each of this. So I wouldn't worry much of this for now. So the idea is usually when you start with Kilo code, that you have now a new button that you can select here on the top. And you open that button and you get a new interface now. Important is that you start this and you have set up your CLI. So we've worked on some quality improvements that should make it much more easy to get up to speed with it. But once you have your CLI installed and it's authenticated, everything should be good to go. And then on the left, you can already see if you're logged into a Kilo account, you also you see that all of my different Christmas tree sessions, I launched for sessions. This is your session history, right? So your sessions that you had a conversation with. And they will ultimately sync also in the right sidebar, where you notice you will be able to share those sessions to the CLI. And you'll also be able to later pick them up in Cloud Agents and in other interfaces. And once you have a Kilo account, we will provide you this simplicity. So you'll just be able to click on a button and just start anywhere where you want to continue your session. And that is the same thought here. So we earlier talked about 3 different workflows. So in the Agent Manager, you have the selection in between local and worktree. And local would just start off a task on your actual repository. So in your main repository, you see this agent then starts, it interacts. It doesn't have all of the features yet of the sidebar, what we're working on, feature similarity. But the idea is now you have some agent here, and this can work in parallel with another agent. You can then work in parallel in between those agents, and they might work on different features. The problem now you'll be facing is this will work, but once you have a feature that conflicts with the other one, or you have multiple tests, then usually you want to switch to a work tree. So what you can here is you select a work tree instead of a local setup. You can optionally you can select a branch if you like, and then this feature will allow you to say to start the session on Git work tree. So it will do a copy of your repository, where you can now do independent changes, so to say. And you'll have this button here on the top. You can click it, and it opens up a terminal then exactly in your work tree session. You could run tests here. You can start the application. You can have a look at the changes, everything right now. And there might be some changes which will be coming, okay, where the work trees positioned. So they might move more into or closer to your repository space. But for now, this works quite well. So you can actually start multiple agents already, test them whatever you want to. And then once you're done, you just click on this button, and it allows you when you have changes. So then it allows you to merge them. If you don't have any changes, then you wouldn't get any merge. So let's add another Christmas tree. I created so many already. So you'll ask your agent, okay, give me some changes. It will create a file for you. It will create your changes. If you like, you can continue the session from here in your CLI or in your sidebar or in the cloud in the future. And then you see it has created that file. You'll then be able to open a terminal, and you'll see the file is actually here. And if you have created a diff or you have a diff, you can then click on this button here on the bottom. And ultimately, what the agent will do is it will just do a quick git diff, stage it for a commit, and create a branch for you. So this is our way of simply getting your changes or your Christmas tree to another branch. And you can then now do with that local branch whatever you want to do. So the last thing which we talked about with the multiple versions, this is something we have built in here. So if you want, you can say, create me maybe there's some suggestions from the chat. I'm not sure. A little game which we can maybe.
Yeah, let's hear it from the chat if there's anything we want to see multiple versions of it here with parallel agents.
But it needs to be Christmas themed, I guess.
Yeah, holiday themed. We got some people typing. So someone wants a Christmas tree with a star for the top of the tree. And then people are saying, and then another with an angel and another.
Yeah, so this is we could do this. Let's just launch those two. Let's launch two versions of those.
Yep.
And then so what we'll do now is we start multiple versions, and each of those versions with the same spec, what you showed earlier, will now go ahead and implement you a different variant of this. And then what was the other?
I'm gonna choose a different one. So someone said Christmas tree with cat ornaments. That's gonna be. I don't know what it's gonna come up with for that. Oh, that's interesting.
Maybe the spelling is not perfect, but the agent will.
That looks good.
Yeah. So what you see is now all of those the agents they launch off, and we plan to make this better. So specifically, what we want is we want to have a good way of you to look at the diff in order to get some feedback, give you some feedback back to the agent. Okay, where do we want to go? We want to allow you to set up scripts so you can decide, okay, hey, what is the current way on setting this up? And yeah, I think we have the first Christmas tree here. I can maybe go and say, test it off. And this is what we got.
I don't think it's sharing the pop-up.
Oh, yeah.
We can imagine it, maybe, if it's too difficult to share.
Maybe let me
Yeah.
Let me see. How much time do we have?
We got another about a 10 minutes, so we got a little time.
Okay.
I do want to go over some questions too in my quick demo as well. So maybe after we show this, we can hop over.
Let me just see how I share a Christmas tree. And we've got to see it, right? So
yeah, we got to see it. Oh, wow.
It has a star, so
that's beautiful. Awesome. All right. So just to summarize quickly. So with the agent manager and the IDE, you can spin up multiple agents that can work on the same thing without conflicting. You can do it on a new branch or through Git work trees, and you can create multiple versions of the same task. Does that sum it up about?
Perfectly. I mean,
okay, great.
This is exactly what you can do, right?
And I got to say,
the kitties is also awesome.
Yeah, I got to say that was a really smooth live demo. I think everyone here probably has experienced some version of someone in the last webinar called them the live demo gremlins, which can be an affliction. Wow, that is something. I honestly wasn't confident in being able to do it. That's really great. Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks so much for that demo, Marius, and for building this great feature. Sure. I think this will really accelerate developers, especially like as you mentioned, as we go through 2026 and things get even faster, and we try to continue developing at kilo speed.
For sure, and I really want to emphasize at this point, like once you try this out and you figure out a bug, you figure out something you'd really like to have, just give us feedback about it. Like a best place for this would be the Discord, or create an issue and we'll make it better in the direction like you want the product to be working for you. So I encourage you to do this. We try to listen to all of the feedback as much as we can, and then build a great product for you.
Yeah, for sure. And before we get into Q&A, which we will, I want to do one real quick demo. So this isn't the subject of today's webinar, but we did just launch App Builder yesterday, as I mentioned, which is like, you can think of it as Lovable for serious projects. So you can build and deploy and preview live websites and applications right from the browser through natural language. I'm not going to show us actually like going through the whole development project just because I want to save us some time, but I am going to show you something I built last night and kind of just what it looks like in the browser. So here, let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. I think I am. Yeah, so this is what App Builder looks like in the Kilo dashboard. So you just go to app.kilo.ai, you click on this App Builder menu item here, and what you can do is you can describe what you want to build, and you can pick any model. So right now, I think I saw a question about this. There are 3 models that are free for a limited time. There's Grok Code Fast 1, there's Mistral's DevStral 2, and then there's Cat Coder Pro V1. And also, we made Minimax M2.1 available as of last night. So that's a brand new model for Minimax. It's very fast and exciting. So what you do is you'd say, this app I built is a takeout randomizer. So it helps you decide what to order for takeout. A little context behind that. My girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years. And one of the main points of conflict in our relationship is deciding what to get for food when we get takeout, because we can never decide. So you just say something like, build me an app and that helps me decide what takeout to get. We'd send that off, and I want to save us some time by going through that and just show what it is here. So I said, build an app to help me randomly choose cuisine for takeout. It should have follow-up randomizers that help really narrow it down. And then what App Builder is going to do is keep you updated on while it works. And you'll get this live preview of the app on the side here, which you can reference. And it's the actual app, so it actually works, which you can reference as you continue to refine and build it. So it'll go through the development process. It'll keep you updated with all the steps here. And then at some point I said it was a different animation. Oops. So I said, make it a series of spinning wheels. And then it iterated on that and made this version. So what we can do is go ahead and spin here, and it will like tell us what cuisine type we got. We can narrow it down even further. And I might actually use this in my day-to-day life, honestly. I love Indian food, and South Indian dosas. Awesome. So maybe we'll get that tonight.
This is
Um,
awesome. I might need this as well.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Maybe you know what, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. So this preview is the live app, and we can optionally actually go ahead and export the code by clicking this clone button, and we can also deploy it to a shareable production URL by clicking that button. So that means like maybe I can share with you, Marius, and you can go ahead and use that.
Sure, I love it.
But as that deploys, I actually have a challenge for the audience here. So as I promised in the email about this webinar, we're going to pick 5 random attendees to receive $100 of Kilo credits. But I have an extra couple hundred here to give away right now. So the only current requirement to using App Builder is to have at least $1 of Kilo credits in your account and to have made a purchase of Kilo credits at least once before. So for those of you who meet those requirements, I'm going to challenge you to use App Builder right now. So you just go to app.kilo.ai/app-builder, or just click it from the side menu, build an app. And then once you've built it, you can share the deployed version to this link, which I'm going to share in the chat here, for a chance to win $100 in Kilo credits. So that's the app, the link to the type form. So if you build something, you deploy it, and you share that link, you have a chance to win $100 of Kilo credits. And then if you share it or repost it on X or LinkedIn or whatever social platform you use, you'll get double the entries. So I'm going to give away 200 more Kilo credits to 2 people, get double the entries if you share it on socials. And I'll send this link in the follow-up email as well. But I'm really excited about this feature. I've had a lot of fun with it already. And the thing that really makes it special is that you don't have to leave the Kilo platform to continue iterating and doing deeper engineering, right? You can clone it and then continue in the IDE or CLI or Cloud Agent or wherever else. And yeah, it's really useful for maybe team members that aren't technical, that want to share something with technical teammates, or for spinning up quick prototypes when you need to launch something fast. So I'm going to use it to help me decide what takeout to get, but I'm really curious to see what all of you come up with, and I'll make sure to share that survey link in the follow-up email for a chance to win some credits. So that's that. I'll also share the link to the to the working site whenever that's ready. Oh, it's here. So here we go. It's deployed to a live shareable URL. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw that in the chat if anyone wants to mess around with it. And we'll go ahead and answer some questions. So Marius, I might need your help with these, but looks like we got about 13 or so new questions in the chat. So someone asked, let me see. Sorry, there's a lot. Someone asked, do these agents know each other's context when running? I'm assuming like the parallel agents.
Well, that's actually a very tricky problem to solve. And the answer is I don't think the solution has been fully found yet for this. But I think let's put it that way. I would imagine it more like if you're working in a team and you all are working in parallel in a team, would you work on the same document all of the time, or would you plan ahead and then synchronize and discuss first, okay, who is doing what, and then at the end join again? And I would probably say that this is how many teams work. And my feeling is that also for working with multiple agents, this could be the right way to do it. Because you have your own autonomy, the agents could maybe change their plan or the requirements in a little bit without having to sync or block any other agents. But it might come, who knows? But I think the first thing we want to make great is like improving the developer experience for using an agent, so that it is seamless. If you use it on your device, in the CLI, in the cloud, wherever you want to use it, and you can continue and get from just a simple message to a PR that creates value for you as a user. And once this is a perfect product, I think the next phase would be thinking in 2026 in the direction, okay, how do we delegate multiple agents and teams to solve problems? So it stays exciting. I think the next year will certainly go in that direction, and I feel very excited to contribute in that direction and get some ideas out. And if you have ideas, let us know. Maybe you have some good ideas, then we think about them and continue working on them.
Yeah, and thanks for that answer. The next question is also on parallel agents. So how do we define which models the parallel agents use, and which models are available for them?
Yeah, that's something that is on the roadmap, so to say. So for now, it just defaults to the model you're selecting in the sidebar and is used in the CLI depending on what you select first, as far as I know. So the plan is that you'll later on be able to choose the correct model for the correct task, so that you can say, okay, hey, I have a difficult bug. I might want to use the latest GPT model for that. Maybe you have a nice feature discussion, then you might want to use Cloud Opus for that. Or you might have a quick adjustment and you might use a faster model. And this is where we want to go, so that you can select for each of the agents, okay, this is maybe the correct model for the task, and also have the ability to select the mode, have permissions. All of that will come, and I think it will provide great value if it's there. And yeah, so stay tuned for that one.
Awesome. Yeah, and I see I got a question about App Builder. So someone said, provide an example of what more serious means. I've used many of the lovables, bolts, etc., and would like to know how this is different. So I kind of already referenced and touched on this before, but the main difference is that App Builder is part of the Kilo agentic engineering platform. So you can, export the code and continue in the IDE and CLI, where you can share sessions with your teammates if needed. So this is a tool for serious prototyping. And like I said, for people that maybe are less technical on your team, to throw up, MVPs or demos or prototypes that will be, eventually iterated into real projects. So I think the value is that it's part of the Kilo platform where you can manage the entire agentic engineering flywheel in the same place with minimal friction. So that's pretty much the answer to that.
Especially your sentence about, like, if you think about software engineering, it is not only writing the code and understanding like what code you've written and writing tests or something like this. It also starts much earlier in the requirements side. And back in the days when we didn't have the agents to generate just so quick prototypes that might not fully 100% work, usually you got a team that spiked a quick prototype for the product engineer, and that product engineer had a nice product. But I think what we can do now is, like, if you're working in a team, we can get those tools much more closer to the product engineers, the people that want to drive decisions of where your UI lives, like how does it look like, and creating a couple of quick prototypes and then handing those prototypes over to your engineering team is a great way how to accelerate productivity or even improve the product much more further as you have possibly could. And in the Kilo space, we want to give you that opportunity so that you can go ahead and also enable people that might not be writing the production code and have to maintain it. But we want you to enable also people that start much earlier in the development process and then hand over maybe the code or a quick prototype or a quick link of your demo to the development team. The development team might decide, okay, this is actually awesome. Let's make this work. And this works. You don't need to share the code base for this. You can just replicate whatever website you quickly have as a product engineer and just have a quick prototype that has a new button or a new header or new footer, whatever you want to have. I'm just making very simple examples. You can also create a Christmas tree, whatever you want to have for a web application.
That's a serious app.
Yes.
That's a serious project. So.
A Christmas tree can be, especially if it has kitties and a star. I mean,
yeah. So someone, I think this is probably going to be the last one, and I know we have more questions. We're going to send a follow-up and try to answer as many of those as possible in the follow-up. I know we're way over time now, but someone asked, how does Kilo charge users? Does it depend on the time it takes to develop the app or the model selected? So the way pricing works in Kilo is that you pay per token at exactly the price set by model providers. So it's not about the time, it's about how many tokens you use. And tokens are actually little bits of words that are processed by the AI model on the way in and the way out. So when Kilo communicates with an AI model like Claude, you send input tokens, and then Claude sends output tokens back with the changes. And each of those tokens has a price, and it varies per model. And we don't charge anything on top of that. We just charge transparently exactly what the model providers charge per token. And that's true of any of the models that you select in Kilo during development. But yeah, I think that is probably... Okay, I'm going to ask one more for you, Marius, because I see a good one. Last one here. How does a multi-agent setup help reduce or manage hallucination?
I think it doesn't. So I think hallucinations usually are a product of not very well context engineering nowadays. So if you go ahead and use Opus and you have a perfect context, so when I speak of context engineering, I'm talking about different techniques that you can apply to improve the performance of your agent. That might be you write architecture tests in your software. You might write tests to give your agent feedback, some kind of feedback loop. It might be that you check manually, like we earlier discussed in a decision tree, in what direction the agent is going. And it might be just a simple prompt file that you can add. So all of those are techniques that you can call context engineering. And the better you do them and the better you master them, the more likely you're going to have your agent going to solve the correct problem and then have a solution space that you accept as your product. And I think this is the right way to think about it. It is something that needs to be your code base should rather be very well optimized for multiple agents to go off. And I don't think parallel agents will solve this issue. So the first step is to actually get your agents having a very good performance on your code base. And the next step would be to also include parallel development with many agents, specifically because you'll have a lot of context switching in between those agents. It's like speaking to multiple people at the same time that are working on different tasks. So it takes practice. You need to understand, okay, how do I share and distribute the work and split it up into different teams? And it is not a simple task. And it seems like team leads are very good in this because they do this already with teams on a day-to-day basis. So they seem to be also very good in delegating tasks to multiple agents. But who knows what will develop and how this will develop in the future.
Yeah, that's so true. And I did see one comment that someone had an error with the app builder, and then they said the agents fixed the error instantly. So that's great to hear. If you do have any issues while experimenting with app builder, you can reach out to our support at hi@kilocode.ai. We'll help you get through any issues. And as I said, I'll share a follow-up with the link to the survey, and I'll distribute the credits for the 5 random attendees this afternoon, and then I'll give everyone until this Friday to submit to the type form for those extra $200 of credits. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining. Thanks so much, Marius, for giving us that insight and for building this great product. I hope we can do this again sometime. And everyone have a great holiday season, and looking forward to seeing you all at the next webinar.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.